Chapter 7.1 Sydney Starshot. "Hey, Tobias!" Retta banged her fist against his heavy metal door. "When's dinner gonna be ready?" "Soon," he said with a short response. It lacked his normal sarcastic bite at the end. "Okay." Retta lingered at the door. She knew something was off, but she felt awkward checking on Tobias. Is everything all right?" "Yeah. Why?" "Just asking." Retta turned away, walked back to the common room, and looked over her shoulder, expecting Tobias to follow. He didn't. He stayed in the cockpit, in one of the rare times his door was shut. Inside, Tobias played with Stella's fang necklace. She gave it back to him after Tobias turned her in to Claire and turned Stella over to Stars. The weight of it felt heavier than he remembered. The guilt saddled on his shoulders. Tobias cradled the necklace in one hand and flicked his finger blades out in the other. He flicked the blades in and out, over and over, like a nervous tick while he stared into the black void of space. The twinkling stars in the distance seemed to coalesce. His vision blurred, and the lights came together. The constellations formed faces. Distant memories came into shape. Tobias's focus dissociated, and memories he wished stayed buried started to resurface. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Tobias jolted back to attention. The faces dissipated, the stars twinkled again, and a call broke Tobias out from his trance. It was Claire. He took a deep, sobering breath and composed himself to answer. He brought his finger to the screen, hesitated over the glass, and wished he never had to answer. But parole was parole, and this was his last chance. He answered, and she came on screen. "Tobias," she said, "thanks again for your work on Stray Dog." "Yeah." He trailed off, his mind still elsewhere. "You okay?" she asked. "You look like shit." "Yeah, I'm fine." He hid his glassy eyes, rubbed his temples, and shooed off her concern. "Just didn't sleep too hot." "Mm-hmm." She feigned interest, but he knew she didn't care. "So, what made you call?" She hesitated a moment. Well, Stella wouldn't talk. She sighed, noticing the faded expression on Tobias's face. "But we got a lead on Starshot." "Sydney?" "Yeah. I'll send you the flyer we found." "Flyer?" "I just sent it to you." Tobias leaned closer to the monitor and squinted to find it. He hated dealing with tech. "Did you get it?" Claire asked. Yeah, just give me a sec." He looked from corner to corner of the screen, scanned every icon, and finally found it. There it is." He tapped the message and the flyer overtook the screen. "The Sunstra Circuit against Sydney Starshot," the title yelled at the reader in bright, bold red and white text. At its center was the tropical moon of Sunstra, whose massive turquoise ocean and blindingly bright racing rings circled the planet and put Saturn to shame. "Face off against the famous Sydney Starshot for a chance to win his ship." The "win" was in bright, glowing gold text. Next to it, taking up half the page, was Sydney. He had an unnaturally white smile and gave an overly self-assured wink. He was even flashier than Tobias remembered. Now, he pulled back his jet-fire hair, blue at the roots and fiery red at the tips. He cut his beard razor thin, just thick enough to outline his jawline. He swapped his simple, silver ear stud with a turquoise crystal and put 3 gold rings in his eyebrow. The boy wasn't wearing rags no more. He moved up. His white champion slicker had a sleek red racing stripe sliced down the jacket. The shoulders were gilded sea creature skulls, encrusted with seashells. His popped collar glowed a faint inner blue light. And of course, never being the modest type, he wore his jacket open and bare-chested as he stood in front of his famous ship with its red and white racing stripes. Tobias was taken aback by what Claire showed him. "What's this?" An open invitation. "No, I mean, what is this?" Tobias thought. After all the escaping Sidney did for us, putting himself in the line of sight ain't like him. Sidney's flashy, but he ain't dumb. Claire's gotta know this is a shiny piece of bait. Tobias chose his next words carefully. The thing is, Sidney's a flighty one. He catches wind of danger, and he's gone. Ain't gonna be easy to nab him. That's a good thing you know him best. Claire didn't leave room for compromise. She wanted Sidney, and Tobias would get him for her. She still held his leash. All right, well, Tobias motioned to disconnect. I'll let you know about Sidney. Treat Stell well. He hovered his finger over the screen, but stopped when Claire said, Oh, I almost forgot. Vera. Tobias dropped his finger away from the screen, his attention now squarely on Claire. Well, at least Vera's ship was spotted by the outer reach. Probably nothing, she said, but I'll tell you more about it in person. He smiled. He knew Claire would never mention something that was probably nothing. Don't get too excited now, she tempered him. We'll talk after you get me Sidney. Right. He knew when she dangled a carrot in front of him. Thanks, Claire. Don't thank me yet. Across the common room, and out of sight of Yana, Red and Kurata watched her sharpen a dagger using her prosthetic hand as a whetstone. She sliced the blade across her metallic fingers, shooting tiny sparks out that came with a satisfying sick with each stroke. Yana did it with deadly, calm grace and captivated both of her nosy onlookers. Kurata, hypnotized by the sound, leaned over to Red and whispered, Is she sharpening a knife? Yeah, between her fingers. Retta kept her eyes on Yana as she pulled out her notebook, unclipped the pen attached to its binding, and jotted down her notes. I wonder what her backstory is. Maybe some assassin? Kurata listened to the ballpoint pen glide along the paper as Red quickly jotted down her thoughts. No, she's too willing to join us for an assassin. Maybe the last of her crew? On the run to avenge the crewmate she lost? No, even better. Kurata quickly discovered Retta's imaginative ramblings that Tobias tuned out. As Red daydreamed, Tobias came up from behind with steaming plates of food in hand. They didn't even notice him. As they oogled at Yana, Tobias snuck closer, leaned between them, and whispered, Boo. Red was unfazed, but the same could not be said for Kurata. She shrieked, jolted, and sent her elbow straight into Tobias's windpipe. He keeled over, struggling to keep composure, and Retta burst into laughter. Sorry! I'm so sorry! Kurata squealed and apologized, over and over, and Tobias hacked up a lung before catching his breath. Are you okay? I'm so sorry It's fine. Tobias coughed between breaths. It's fine. Kurata created a sound bubble between her and Red, and whispered, He hates me now, doesn't he? Relax, he's taken worse than elbows. In Tobias's hands were 2 plates meant for Retta and Kurata. She almost couldn't believe it. She didn't even know they had plates. She saw steam, real steam, for the first time on Tobias's ship. Kurata smelled a warm, inviting scent in the air. The 2 starving girls were absolutely mesmerized. The thought of hot food on Tobias's ship was a luxury. Retta leaned closer and asked Tobias, You can cook now? Always could. Just had to fix the burner. Tobias lowered a single plate so they could see it. What is it? It's mushroom stew. It looked like a hot glob of brown mush, bubbling and pooling in the center of the plate. Kurata grabbed a plate and felt the sticky glob of mushrooms spilling over the rim. Do you? Kurata said, mustering the courage to finish her sentence. Maybe have bowls? I got cans. That will do. But no clean spoons, so you have to drink it. The 2 girls looked at each other, and Retta sighed as she rubbed her temples. You'll get used to it. Tobias slid the plates on the ground, held Alpha back from charging in head first, and told Kurata, Welcome to the junk dog. After having their tolerable sludge, Retta, Karada, and Yana met Tobias in the cockpit. So, Red asked, where to next? Sunstra, Tobias said. Little tropical moon with the sea. Perfect, Retta thought. That's where Karada said my mom went to follow the bots. What's got us going there? Retta asked. Tobias flicked on his monitor. A ship, he said, and turned to Retta. One you still owe me, and y'all are going to win it for me. The flyer Claire sent spread across the screen. Red let out a sigh. Karada waited for someone to explain what they were looking at, and Yana muttered under her breath. Shit. It was barely perceptible, but just enough for Retta to notice. Yana quietly turned around and walked away. How long till we get there? Retta asked, twisting slightly to keep an eye on Yana. Little bit. Got some time. All right, Retta said, turning to follow Yana. Let me know when. You're more interested than I expected, Tobias said. Because I want to find my mom, Retta thought, and what Yana reacted to. Yana moved surprisingly fast. She was already at the end of the hall by the time Retta turned the corner. Red picked up her pace, went to the common room, and found Yana leaned over with a drawn knife before she hid it once again within her metallic forearm. Hey, Retta said. Everything good? Yeah, Yana replied. You walked away when you saw that flyer. I'm fine, Yana said, and took out her knife. I just needed my dagger. She's not going to tell me, Red thought. Maybe if I use the baton? Okay, Red said, stepping a bit closer. But if you need to talk. She put her hand on Yana's shoulder. Yana blankly stared back, looked at Red, and Red waited for the baton to work its magic. Come on, baton. Yana looked at Retta's awkward hand, and then back at Red. Come on. What are you doing? Yana asked. You can talk to me. Still, nothing from the baton. I'm here for you? Still just cold, black ink on her forearm. Thanks. Yana delicately removed Retta's hand off her shoulder and walked to her quarters. But I'm all right. The door shut. Retta was left alone, and she looked at her tattoo. So when do you want to work? It stayed the same, black ink. What made it work before with Karada? Retta leaned against the metal wall, crossed an arm over, and rested her chin between her fingers. Well, Karada's different, that's for sure. A lot warmer than Yana. And open. A lot more open. Honestly, I barely know anything about Yana. Retta looked to the side, searching for inspiration, and saw the flyer on Tobias' computer. Sydney Starshot was spread across the screen. She left when she saw him. Maybe through him, I can find out more. She looked back at her baton, and it gave the faintest glow. And then, maybe I can connect to Yana. Sound good to you, baton?